The moment the doors burst open, the world seemed to freeze. Shouts echoed across the glossy marble floors of the corporate lobby as security guards reached for hidden holsters. A panic alarm wailed in the background, red sirens flashing against towering glass walls that looked out over the city. At the center of everything stood a lone single father, arms raised, eyes wide with confusion, while the CEO he had just spoken to moments earlier signed frantically behind the attacker's back, "Help me. He has a weapon." It was the kind of chaos that could change a person forever, and for Ethan Carter, life was about to tear open at the seams and reveal a truth he never imagined he'd be part of. If you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe right now, because this story will remind you that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they're just single dads trying to survive. Ethan Carter had never expected to walk into one of the biggest corporations in the country. A week earlier, he had been a forklift operator, balancing manual labor shifts with sleepless nights, raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. She was his entire world, the reason he kept going after his wife passed away unexpectedly 3 years ago. But then came the layoffs, and he found himself clutching a cheap fraying suit jacket borrowed from his neighbor and traveling downtown for an interview that felt completely out of his league. His heart hammered as he stepped inside the towering skyscraper, surrounded by polished shoes, thick briefcases, and people too busy to notice a struggling father trying to keep his hope alive. Ethan knew this job was a long shot. Bennett Innovations, a tech empire dominating the markets, rarely hired anyone without elite degrees or flawless experience. But he had skills no one could see on paper, a relentless work ethic and devotion fueled by love. He didn't need wealth. He needed stability, health insurance for Lily's asthma, and a chance to prove he wasn't a burden on the world. But as he sat in the waiting room, surrounded by well-dressed candidates whispering about stocks and AI systems, Ethan felt small. He didn't speak that language. He spoke the language of sacrifice. Suddenly, the elevator chimed and a woman stepped out, commanding the entire room's attention. Tall, sharply dressed in a navy suit, elegant streaks of silver in her dark hair, and eyes that carried both intelligence and weariness. Emily Bennett, the CEO. People whispered as she passed, a living legend who rebuilt the company after nearly losing everything. But what struck Ethan wasn't her power, it was the way she glanced at him. A moment of interest, curiosity, maybe even recognition of struggle. As she approached the receptionist, Ethan noticed something else, her hand forming quick gestures, graceful and precise, towards someone behind the desk. Sign language. Ethan's breath caught. Lily was partially deaf since birth. He had learned sign language to communicate with her, spending nights practicing from online videos while she slept. Seeing the CEO use that language felt like witnessing a secret connection shared by the forgotten. When Emily's eyes returned to him, she paused. Her expression softened, just slightly, before she nodded for him to follow. In her office, sunlight spilled across glass desks and awards that gleamed like trophies in a museum. Ethan felt like an imposter. He explained his situation awkwardly, stumbling over financial terms he barely understood. But Emily didn't judge. Her gaze remained thoughtful and attentive, as if she understood the language behind his words, the unspoken desperation of a parent trying to protect their child. She signed a question. "You know sign?" Ethan nodded, signing back humbly, "My daughter. She can't hear much." In that moment something shifted. Emily leaned back, her lips pressing together as though she was remembering her own past. Years ago, she had grown up with a father who refused to learn sign language for her deaf mother. She had vowed never to let communication be a wall that love couldn't cross. Just as she opened her mouth to speak again, a forceful knock rattled the door. Before Ethan could react, a large man in a maintenance uniform stepped inside, face tense, eyes darting, breath shaky like he was fighting panic or rage. Emily stiffened immediately. Her smile vanished. Her hands, once relaxed, now moved subtly behind her desk, her fingers forming silent words only Ethan could see. "Help me. He has a weapon." Ethan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "Weapon?" He looked at the man more closely. Sweat dripped from his temple. His jaw clenched, His hand was hidden inside his jacket pocket, gripping something shape-like, rigid. The man demanded that Emily continue the meeting she had canceled earlier. His voice shook with desperation. Something personal, something dangerous. Ethan glanced at the security badge, maintenance supervisor. Someone with access, someone who knew the layout and where to hide in it. Emily kept signing. Her hands trembled. Do something, please. Ethan didn't know what to do. He was just a single dad, not a hero, not a soldier. But he knew fear when he saw it, and he knew that if he did nothing, Emily might die. Lily's face flashed through his thoughts. Would she grow up without a father too? He inhaled slowly, steadying the storm inside him. He began signing back, carefully, subtly, close to his leg where the man wouldn't notice. Call security quietly. Emily nodded, sliding her trembling fingers toward a hidden button beneath her desk. But before she could press it, the man noticed Ethan's movement. His eyes blazed with suspicion. He yanked his hand from his jacket, and Ethan lunged forward on instinct, wrestling him to the ground. Papers flew, a glass trophy shattered, and Emily gasped as the attacker's pocket spilled open. A metal object clattered against the floor. Not a gun, not a knife. A stapler. The man wasn't carrying a real weapon. Security burst inside seconds later, tackling him and forcefully restraining him. The man sobbed against the floor, defeated and broken. He wasn't a criminal, just a father who had been fired earlier that morning after 20 years in the company. His wife had cancer, his son was disabled. This job was the only thing keeping them afloat. He was desperate, not dangerous, just like Ethan. Emily stood trembling, absorbing the misinterpretation. Shame washed over her features as she realized she had misjudged the situation. Misjudged a man's suffering. Ethan didn't feel like a hero, just exhausted. His shirt ripped, knuckles bruised, knees aching from the sudden fall. Security dragged the man away as he cried apologies that echoed through the room. Ethan couldn't help but feel the weight of it all. They were both struggling fathers, fighting to keep the world from destroying their families. When the chaos settled, Emily approached Ethan with eyes filled not with fear, but gratitude. The first thing she did was sign, slow and heartfelt, "Thank you." Ethan shook his head, responding with equal sincerity. He just needed help, like me. Emily stared at him longer than before, as though seeing clearly for the first time. She waved off the HR director who rushed in with forms and questions. Today was not about protocols, it was about the real human beings behind them. She signed again, "Your daughter. She is your strength." Ethan nodded, his throat tight. "Yes, always." Emily walked to her desk, pulled out a folder and handed it to him. Inside was an offer letter, a job, full benefits, enough to give Lily the care she deserved, stability for the first time in years. Ethan's hands trembled as he accepted it. Tears pricked the corners of his eyes. He hadn't expected kindness, not in a world that usually stepped over people like him, but here it was. Real. Emily wasn't done. She demanded that security release the maintenance supervisor. She walked up to him, ignoring the disapproving looks from her staff, and signed something simple but powerful. "We will help your family too." No man should break under the weight of survival. Word of what happened spread throughout the company and beyond. Employees whispered not about panic or danger, but about compassion and courage shown by a single dad no one expected anything from. Ethan returned home that night with Lily asleep in his arms, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. He kissed her forehead, whispering silent promises that their hardest days were finally behind them. Weeks passed and Ethan transitioned into his new role, learning quickly, earning respect, and bringing cinnamon rolls from Lily to share with his team every Friday. Emily remained a guiding presence, always checking in to ensure he wasn't drowning in pressure. She even visited Lily's school and helped fund new programs for deaf children. She wasn't just a CEO now, she was a friend. But deep inside, Ethan remained humbled by that day. He knew that life could collapse in a single heartbeat. He knew that the man who had walked into the office wasn't evil, just unheard. Sometimes the scariest weapon a person has is their pain. As years passed, Lily grew stronger, healthier, and more confident than ever. She idolized Emily and wanted to follow in her footsteps someday. maybe become an engineer or a designer, someone who built things that helped others communicate. One evening, well after closing time, Ethan stood by the company rooftop watching the city lights twinkle. Emily joined him, leaning against the railing, silent but comfortable. They exchanged a few signs, gratitude filling the quiet space between them. Heroes weren't defined by their strength but by their hearts. And second chances? They were miracles granted when someone dared to believe in a